my honor to introduce the co-director of the Blair Witch Project, the groundbreaking filmmaker, Eduardo Sanchez. Let's give him a round of applause! And your first step, Ed, so you get to pick your seat. All right, all the way at the end. All right, maybe I smell or something. And of course, we have our stars of the Blair Witch Project here with us today. As a young actor, as a high school actor, I was one of those girls who's like, nothing scares me, and I was a very dramatic actress, and didn't do musicals, only did Shakespeare and dramas, and when I saw these performances, I thought these were the coolest people in the entire world. I really did. It was so real, so terrifying. Again, nothing really scared me in high school. I was like, it doesn't scare me. I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks after I saw the Blair Witch Project. So I truly, let's give a warm welcome to the stars of the Blair Witch Project, which brought this story to life. Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael C. Williams. Please come on out. Florida, filmmaker from UCF, and I want to give him some O-Town love. Welcome the cast and the director of the Blair Witch Project!
Thank you guys for being here.
So I just want to get to it because, again...
Also, thank you for that lovely introduction.
Oh my goodness!
And I have never been called the coolest person that anybody knows, so...
Okay, so there's a couple of things, and I won't get to it. I used to reenact things as a kid, so Beetlejuice, I'd pretend to be Beetlejuice, and so Blair Witch Project, I don't know how many times, this was a 17-year-old Alea doing this, okay? I pretended, I would look in the mirror and be up close, like with the mirror, and I would be reenacting the scene that is referenced so many times, but and I would try to get snot coming out of my nose. I'm like, how did she do that? So no, you guys are the coolest, truly. It's people that go into storytelling, whether you're an actor, a filmmaker, you're a costume designer, a makeup artist, whatever, it's people like you. You've done it, you showed us you can do it, and it inspires us and motivates us, so thank you. Sorry, I can go on and on, but I've got some questions for this amazing cast and our director. But first off, I have to start all the way at the end with Ed. I want to know, there are so many stories, especially in the independent filmmaking world. I mean, you guys truly are legends. I meet so many directors that reference Blair Witch, that say that you've changed how they view film. And my first question to you, Ed, is when this seed was planted, when the seed of the idea for the Blair Witch Project was planted, was it you had this story in mind, you had this narrative that you wanted to tell of this lore, of this witch, and you needed a framing device to tell that narrative? Or did you come up with this framing device of, wow, it'd be really interesting to blend narrative storytelling with documentary storytelling, because that might invoke a visceral reaction from the audience, it might blend what's real versus fiction. I guess I'm interested in knowing, what was the driving force behind the seed of the Blair Witch Project?
It was, Dan Myrick, who I wrote and directed the movie with and edited the movie. We were at UCF and doing, just hanging out on the weekends, and we had just watched this movie called Freddy's Dead, which, was a fun movie, but not really scary, and we were wondering about, how, there hadn't been many scary movies. This is early 90s, 90, 91. And we were talking about what made us scared as kids, and we kind of honed in on this show called In Search Of, with Leonard Nimoy was the narrator. That show creeped the crap out of us when we were kids, so we went and rented it and watched the show, and we loved it. And again, even as adults, or semi-adults in film school, we were we loved it. It was creepy, and so we were like, I wonder if you could do that, fake, basically, but do a fake documentary. So the whole idea was a fake documentary. It was going to have the footage in the woods with the actors, and then we were going to cut back and forth to talking heads and people examining the footage and investigators and detectives, family members, and then so that was the original idea. And then the Blair Witch thing came later when we were actually going into production and trying to figure out, okay, why are they going into the woods? And we came up with the mythology for for the Blair Witch. You had to give them a reason to go there. So it was just basically a fake documentary. It was. I mean, a lot of people say, what were you inspired by? And I really a lot of just like Spinal Tap. Remember Spinal Tap?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, that was one of my favorite movies, and I was like, I wonder if you could do that, in the horror genre. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of the experiment.
Very cool. So now, when there's a lot of legend, there's the lore of the Blair Witch Project, which is the narrative of the story, but there's legend with this film. I mean, like I said, I always bring it back to the film festival and the filmmakers that I meet every single year. There's so many stories of, oh yeah, the directors, it's always the directors of the Blair Witch, they're able to do this with no budget, and they were able to, I want to be able to differentiate between fact and fiction with your own personal legend. And so when the Blair Witch Project, I've heard stories being in Central Florida. I'm from the Central Florida area, so whether it's professors or students of film and whatnot, there's always a Blair Witch Project story, and I don't know what's true and what's not. My first question is, this was one, we have a film festival crew of 22, and we watched the Blair Witch Project all together in preparation for this panel. And one of the questions was, is it true that there was no script for the Blair Witch Project, that it was all improvised? There was a treatment, an outline of about 30 pages or whatnot, and then you trusted the actors to bring it to life with the improvisation.
Yeah, we wanted it to feel real, so we knew we weren't going to write a script. So we wrote a script with basically no dialogue, and we never showed it to them. We wanted them to be kind of, try to experience what the characters are experiencing, as much as possible. So, and they, we knew we were going to improvise the whole thing, and they improvised it, and they gave us so much material, and we were able to kind of edit this movie, really kind of almost direct it in the editing room. But they gave us so much material that it was just, there's still a lot of really great material that's never been seen before. But yeah, that was kind of it. We never wanted to do that. I mean, we wanted it to be, and the same thing why, we asked them, hey, can we use your real names? On hindsight, not a great idea, but now, it was just artistic. It was like, we just want you guys not to have to memorize characters, and we don't want to ruin scenes by calling each other by your names, and everybody was cool with it, and that's why we did it. But it was just basically just trying to put them in this, in this bubble, and trying to, motivate them to, give us, something that had never been seen before, and they certainly did.
So it was very experimental and untraditional, and especially from an actor's perspective, I can see it being either extremely freeing of, I've created my character and it's limitless to where it can go, or it would scare the crap out of me. And what are we shooting? How many setups do we have for the day? What's happening in a more traditional filmmaking sense? And then also you have to have a lot of faith and trust in your actors for them to bring the story that you want to life. So how were you able to select the actors that came on board? Because it's not just acting, it's not just performance, it's improvisation, it's camera work.
Yeah, it was a special kind of, actor that we were looking for, and we did auditions everywhere, but mostly in New York, where the main talent is, I think, for acting. And so we just did these improvisational auditions where they would just we grill them as soon as they come in with different scenarios, and then we just try to see how natural they felt and how non-acty they felt. And there was really good people and really bad people, and then we kind of whittled it down to about 12, and then we just kind of started playing with the kind of how they mixed with each other, and then we just chose these guys because they just they brought something. I mean, they really we were in this New York audition space, and air conditioning going, and they brought this drama and they made us believe that they were in the woods in these situations. So we were like, man, if they're doing this in here in New York in this audition space, they're going to do great, in the woods. So, I think we got really lucky finding these three.
And this is for each of the actors going on to a project like this. I guess, have you ever done anything like this? Whether you have, if you've ever been a part of an improv troupe or an improv training or experimental, this almost seems like an exercise for acting class versus work. So I just want to ask and chat about the process of this particular acting challenge of not having a script, kind of being told guidelines, but creating it from scratch.
Yeah, I'll start. And first of all, thank you for all being here on a Sunday. I'm sort of blown away by how many of you are here, so thank you so much. So, I went to school for theater, and I had a wonderful experience, SUNY New Paltz in Hudson Valley of New York. And hell yeah, let's go Hawks. So our professors were great, particularly this woman, Beverly Brum, rest her souls, my coach, my life coach. And a hell of an acting teacher. And every scene that we did in a scene study class, or whether we were doing a show, we always improvised the scene. So she'd be like, all right, put the scripts down, now do it in your own words. I mean, like, everything was improv based because it wasn't about the words anyway. It should never be. It's about, like, what's happening behind the words. So, as you know. And then I did a ton of comedy improv training there, and we were in a troupe, and, like, just working off of each other's energy, and was trained in Meisner, at least myself, so it's like more about the other person. And if like Josh and I are in a scene, he's making it about me, I'm making it about him, and what you want, then it works, right? The acting is what happens in the space between two people, and in this case, three people and the witch, right? So for me, it was exciting that it was an improvisational feature film. It said it right up front in the casting notice, improvisational feature film. I also love the outdoors, I still do, and I come to learn at the audition process that we'd be kind of camping and hiking and all this stuff. So, and shooting on video, and as you're thinking about it, you're thinking, well, that's great because we can just, which we did sometimes, like, let's just try that again. There wasn't a camera on sticks and like, hey, daylight's burning, there's money burning. Like, I know they were spending money, but it wasn't like that pressure of the setup. It was a giant, the imagined circumstances were believable because of the places that they put us and sort of the trust that they gave us. And then we really built a trust amongst the three of us pretty darn quickly, which I'm always grateful for, because that's all you can ask of other actors, is to have a trusting relationship with them. And I talk a lot about like sort of the violence that happened, particularly between Heather and I. Like, you say your stop word, and you're like, hey, how you doing? Good work. Are you okay? We check in with each other and stuff. So that's a long-winded answer, but I was excited by the prospect. And I know Josh has done more improvisational films since then. I love that stuff, and I hope to continue to do some of that stuff in the future.
Thank you. What about you, Joshua?
Yeah, I think Mike said a lot of it. Okay, is that better? I would say, especially at that point in what later became what I called a career, like, I didn't really have a career. I was young and in New York, and I think for myself, as well as for a lot of people who get into the creative arts, the heart of that, so much of the impetus behind doing that is experimental, is trying things that feel uniquely yours or uniquely collaboratively yours, and trying to do things that nobody else has done before, that make people feel a way that people haven't felt before, and often that doesn't work out, but I think you said something that I found really interesting, and I found it kind of catching in my brain, which was the whole notion of experimental or improvisation not being so much work, but more like an exercise. And now looking back on this film, I would say I came into making shit all about the process. And then I spent probably 15 years like trying to get jobs and looking at other people and being really scared that like I had to learn to do it right, that I had to learn to do the job of it. And then I hit another point in my career much, much later, after 70, 80 projects, where I was like, oh, you know, Rick Rubin talks a lot about the beginner's mind and how to get back to the beginner's mind. And it took me 15 years to get back to the place where the process is the work, and getting comfortable enough with myself in the way that I was before I knew to be scared, to experiment with shit and to let it go wrong, to not try to tightly control it, to really allow the situation and the energy and the inspiration of the people that you're working with to drive a project in a place that you because that's what collaboration is. You don't you can come up with something on your own, and you'll hear about directors who are like, I wish I could do animation. I wish I could have, you know, puppets who just did exactly what I wanted. And what I think was so great about what these guys did, and then, you know, the scene with the Duplass brothers and Lynn Shelton and so many of those folks who I wound up collaborating with later, was the lightning in a bottle that you can actually catch in terms of finding something real when you're not trying to control it, and when you're really letting go of the reins. And I think, you know, I am so grateful that this project really set a template for how powerful that can be. And I think how powerful that can be as an audience member, to watch something and know that it might go off the tracks at any point. There's something really cool and exciting about that.
Thank you.
I think they covered it.
Well, something that you said, Joshua, about collaboration and how this film, again, it was the director's trust in you and each of you, to be able to bring this story to life, bringing your talents to production, and they not knowing what, it sounded like there were bullet points to almost hit, to a structure to follow, but how you got there was completely on your own. Was there anything in that, when you got to the editing room, Ed, that completely surprised you? Something that, like, for instance, something that came up when we were rewatching it with my Film Fest crew was, why did he kick the map in the river? So that's one of those things. Was that something that was scripted, or is that something that's completely improvised? And you found that out in the editing room?
That's something that Mike Knucklehead did. No, I mean, you know, that's why we were like trying, because, you know, the shoot was 24 hours a day. Like, they were in the woods, and we were trying to get a little bit of sleep and trying to get there early and give them directing notes and get the directing notes ready and get the location ready and hang the stick men, and people were working on the house trying to get the graffiti off the house, and just all these different things, just setting up these scenarios for them. And we would watch the raw footage as much as we could, maybe a couple hours a day at the most, because there was just a lot to do. And we caught the moment with the map kicking, and also just that kind of violent, you know, scene afterwards. And you know, we were just like, holy shit, like, because that was something that we had never, you know, scripted. And this is the kind of thing, like what Josh was saying, is that Blair Witch taught me that, like, sometimes the best thing that you can do as a director is just to back away and let, you know, the people that you hired to do the job. And I still do it to this day in television. Sometimes you just gotta let people figure it out, give them a little bit of, a little bit of direction, and then let them, you know, do what they gotta do, because, you know, there's so many talented people. And these three were very talented, and they knew what they were, you know, doing. So, you know, it was basically the surprise scene of, like, holy shit, he kicked the map, and then Josh's reaction, and then Heather's reaction, and just so powerful that, like, you know, and I always bring this up about Blair Witch and about a lot of found footage movies, like, there's so much action and so much acting going on that you don't see. Like most films, when a character speaks something that's important, the camera's on them, and then they cut to the other camera, and then the Blair Witch it's almost like an audio drama. You know what I'm saying? And it's just so powerful because you're imagining what oh my God, imagine how Heather's face is right now, or Josh, and then you see Mike's reaction to them, and it's almost like scarier. So, but that scene completely blew us away, and we knew at least we had something special. We felt like that was one of the first times we were like, all right, maybe we're onto something here.
Now, speaking of that something special, when was that precise moment in the editing room because you said you had hours of footage. How many hours of footage did you have?
We had like 22 hours of footage.
To sift through. Okay. So after 22 hours of footage and you're dwindling that down, when was that moment in the editing room that you knew you had something special? Because it's kind of an experiment up till that point.
I mean, we've all had failures before Blair Witch and after Blair Witch. We know what it's like to put your hopes into something and be completely crushed as a filmmaker, and you learn from that. So, we knew we had something cool, but we were never like, oh my God, we have the best movie in the world. Like we were always hesitant to kind of put any kind of importance to what we're doing. I mean, we were just going along, the path. And the first kind of testing point was going to be Sundance. If we got into Sundance, then other things would happen. If we didn't get into Sundance, then we had another, way to get it out there. And all we were looking for was just a little distribution deal, like just a video deal where we can, make a little money, pay the investors back, and then maybe make another movie with that money. So, our expectations were very low. But, we knew we had something special. And there's so many moments, definitely Heather's confession, when we saw that, we were just like, we couldn't even talk. But there's, everybody has these crazy moments. There's just so much, like that whole scene when Josh is, what's your motivation? Like, it's so wrong, but it you understand why he's feeling that way as a character. And it was just like, there's so many moments with all three of them that just and there's these tender moments, like after Josh leaves in the tent where Heather's, I think you're mending Mike's pants, like this, it's just like this, such a tender, this moment of and I don't even think, you don't even see Mike. Mike's just talking and she's doing this with a flashlight and, their friend is gone. This is right before they hear him, yelling from in the woods. It's just for us, it was just these actors brought this thing to life in a way that we never thought was possible. But again, you got to kind of keep it cool and not, get too crazy about what you think you have until, you get a little, just feedback about what it is. So, we try to keep it cool.
To Ed's point, I would say keeping it cool is the wrong way to phrase what I saw from them as the filmmakers. I actually think they were and are pretty humble about, because I'm not full-time in this industry anymore and haven't been for a long time, but for many years it was people will come up to you I have the best idea and it's going to be the greatest thing ever and I'm so great at what I do, and they're nice people and they're probably talented people, but it's don't put the cart before the horse. You do the work, and all you can control is what you're doing in that moment and make it happen in that moment. You have no idea what's going to happen. And so to watch how they, were just thoughtful about the process while we were doing that process was pretty neat. And I would still say that, he's humble about it, and I've appreciated that humility across the panel here. But any artists out there, you should feel in your heart and soul that you feel like you're onto something, but you don't need to announce it to anybody because you don't know until you know. So
you don't know until the audience tells you.
Yeah.
And that's really when I don't know how many test screenings you guys had, and obviously with this specific movie there were so many components of time and place and genre and society that kind of came together to make it something that we're actually talking about 25 years later. But But before any of that, there was a moment where we sat down at that first screening at Sundance, and there was a room full of people, and you could fucking feel it. You could feel that it worked and that it made an audience feel something really viscerally. And that's ultimately, like, your audience. It's another thing, because I just assume there's a lot of creatives in here. The amount of years that it took me to take hard notes on something that I'd written or something that I'd made, and not go, but it's in there because ta-da! And in my head it made this whole thing doesn't work if you don't have that part. And to shut my mouth and to go like, oh, you're the audience. You're telling me the experience that you're having with this, and I'm never like that is somebody giving honest feedback on something that you make, of the way it makes them feel in the places that it doesn't make them feel, for me has been the greatest and most humbling often gift as an artist, to listen and say thank you. And sometimes 80% of the time, unless somebody's really fucking smart, the note that they're giving and how they suggest you fix it is not going to be right or work for your thing. But if you can look beyond what their suggestion is and figure out what they're actually missing, what the impediment is between what you've made and it connecting with them, it really gives you a clear path to this beautiful form of communication that is, Walter Hobbs, one of my favorite gallerists, had a quote that said, art offers the possibility of love between strangers. And I always loved that. I always loved that idea that the people who have made things that have gotten me through my life, and then, the handful of things that I've done that have really spoken to other people, like that love language between strangers is, it's like breath in a dust storm sometimes. Like, it's kind of what gets us all through.
Yeah, and I mean, even like here, just the love that you guys give us, and just the stories of, when you first saw it and how it got you, and, I just, we all feel so like blessed to have been a part of it, and to have you guys touched by this thing that we created, and, and you guys are complete strangers, and you come to us with these stories of like how this thing, had some meaning in your life, and, it's just, that's the best part of doing these, conventions for us. It's just like talking to you all and like just getting the that energy, because we've all done a lot of stuff, and it's very rare when you have something that obviously people are talking about so long after it was made, and we just appreciate you all so much. You're coming here and spending your money and spending your time to just to freaking shake our hands and stuff and get our autographs, and we really, really love you guys, and we wouldn't be here without you, and we continue to appreciate that, and we'll continue to do these cons as much as we can, because it really is this great energy, and it's why we do it. So, and a round of applause for you all.
Can I ask real quick, how long does this panel go for?
Till 1:50.
Till 1:50? You have been so awesome, but I would love so much to hear from the audience.
Absolutely.
If that's possible.
Yes, because I didn't want to bring my phone and be that person looking at my phone up here. So I appreciate you having a watch. So thank you, Joshua. Okay, so since we do have a timekeeper up here, thank you so much. We can open it up to the audience. I do have more questions, of course. Brendan, how much time do we have? 10 minutes? Great. So I will do this by hands. If anybody does have a question, I saw you first and you second, so at least get to these two questions, and then we'll hold off for there, because who knows how long these answers might be. So I don't want to promise, so we'll start 1 and then 2 right there.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. This movie bothered me to my very core. that we as a society have really fallen because we would allow these people's deaths. And I would go along saying, like, this is the worst thing that ever happened to anyone. And then I found myself seeing toothpicks and thinking the witch was coming for me. And people standing in stalls in the bathroom facing the wrong way. They were probably using the paper towel, but I would leave because I wasn't sure if they were the corner waiting to die. Were you haunted by the film at all? Because I was haunted by the film till today.
Great question. Were you haunted by the film as much as the audience was haunted by the film?
In very different ways.
Yeah, it's a tough one to answer. Everything that you love also breaks your heart. So there's some of that. But not actually scared, no. And I enjoy standing in people's corners if you haven't noticed. It is a lot of fun.
And I love a good toothpick. So.
A question up here.
Hi. So first off, before I ask my question, what these guys are doing in the entertainment industry is incredible. Anyone who's an independent artist should really be thanking these guys, and I think that they deserve a really.
Thank you so much.
Because you all are so well traveled from, promoting this film or going to conventions, is there any kind of cultural thing that you've discovered, whether it's a new favorite food or favorite beer or a fun cultural story from getting to travel so much?
Well, I mean, the culture of the horror conventions is very punk rock, grunge, metal, odd, fun, so freaking kind. Honestly, like, it's a really cool community. I'm a big fly fisherman, and I believe in communities, and like, then I started climbing walls, like rock climbing with my daughter, and that's a cool community. Like, I just like to find kind communities, and I will say the horror folks are some of the kindest in a community. So you guys, I mean, that's, to me, that's what it's about. So being kind.
Does anyone else want to give an answer for
Bueller.
No, that was great.
great.
And when you asked that, literally all I could think of was my favorite part of traveling has always been people. Like just walking, just going around the world, going like, you do shit totally different than I do, and that's amazing. And yeah, and at the end, that's it. That's it.
Kids all over the world love a balloon.
It's true.
I always travel with balloons in my backpack, and I always make friends.
That's good advice. Travel with balloons in your backpack to make friends.
Now, what I'm curious about is Blair Witch, obviously a pioneer of its time. It's spawned all sorts of different little genres. So I'm really curious, like, as far as found footage, you guys have probably seen films and found footage since then. What is your favorite found footage show?
Host.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah, Jed Shepard's Host, 2020. It's basically a possession on Zoom. I thought it was just so crafty and thrifty and cool and
Especially during quarantine.
cutting edge. Yeah, I mean, it just hit home because we were all staring at, and still, a lot of us still staring at screens.
What about you, Josh?
I don't know if I have a favorite.
Okay, well, Heather?
I don't know.
I know you gotta have one.
I mean, I have a few favorites. I think Wreck is a great one. Host is amazing. There's one called that doesn't get a lot of attention called Europa Report, which is a great science fiction found footage movie that they actually spent some money on. And then Paranormal Activity, I think, is freaking, scared the crap
I did
out of
enjoy
me.
the first one, yeah.
Yeah, and even Cloverfield, Cloverfield introduced, Cloverfield made like found footage acceptable to Hollywood, and then all those other found footage movies came after Cloverfield. J.J. Abrams kind of, I guess, put a stamp of approval on found footage, and then the executives were like, "Oh yeah, we can do found footage now." So, but there's a lot of great ones, a lot of really bad ones too, but there's some great ones, yeah.
I'm looking forward to something called Frogman that I keep saying.
Alrighty, so it looks like we have two more questions. And we'll make sure we get these last two questions before we wrap up. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So my question is, Hudson Valley, very good. Was it done deliberately to keep the cast under wraps? Because I know when I saw the movie, people were like, they're dead, but we didn't hear much about the cast until after the movie had momentum. So I didn't know whether that was done deliberately to keep
Part of the
them under
marketing
wraps.
of the film? Mhm.
Because all we had was AOL back then, so you couldn't Google anything.
It was really the distributors that came up with that. From my understanding, the distributors were like, "Hey, you guys, just hide in the shadows, so that we can do what we need to do to make this film successful." So we did. And then maybe with like 3 weeks after, or a month after, we were able to kind of come out and start doing press and stuff.
Yeah. They told us 2 weeks. I don't know how long it actually lasted, but I just remember, and you know, it's like honestly, like when we sold the movie, we were just so, you know, green, and we just had no idea what the hell was going on. We were just so happy that somebody had bought the movie, and like when they told us it was going to be in the theaters, we were like, "What? You're going to put this piece of shit in the movie theater?" You know, not a piece of shit, but this movie shot on fucking high 8. I mean, you crazy? And then they told us that they wanted to market it as, you know, as real, and we were like, you know, you sure you're not gonna, you know, because we were worried about. We had many discussions about like, do we fool the audience? Is it gonna have a lot of backlash? But they were like, we don't care. We lie to the audience all the time, you know, with marketing. So we were like, all right, I guess you guys know what you're doing. And the saddest thing that about them pretending to be, at least for me, was pretending to be gone. The first it was we were at the Angelica. I tell a story all the time. We were at Angelica and we're across the street, and all the showings and this is in New York, all the showings are sold out for the whole weekend, and there's a big line. And me and Mike were like just across the street, and we're like, man, it's unbelievable, man, it's crazy. Look at this. And he was like, man, it's crazy, man. People are lining up for my movie, and I can't even go over there and show my face. I'm like, yeah, man, it's really bad. I'm gonna go over there and hang out now. So, you know, it was because Dan and I had to take up, you know, kind of all the publicity and all the interviews early on, and then after they announced themselves and made themselves public, then they took over. But again, like there's a lot of things about the way the movie was. A lot of things about the movie that we would have done differently, but and I don't, you know, I guess that did work, but it was just not. It was unfair to them to like kind of pretend that they were dead. That was just not. You know, must have not been fun for you guys.
For many, many, many years, and I don't think it's still true, but we had to sort of defend that we were acting in this film. People really thought that it was more like they just threw us out there and tortured us, and we didn't know what we were getting into, and especially for the first number of years, certainly the entire first press push was about the marketing of the film and whether it was real or not. So it was tough for, at least for me, after that to be like sitting in casting offices, and even casting directors are like, you're like a reality TV star, you're not actually an actor. I'm like, no, I actually studied theater and did improv, I've every scene, and so that's one of those things that was heartbreaking at the time.
Like we would do meetings in LA, and they would all start off with, have you ever seen a real script before? And we're like, yeah, we've made movies before, and we've written scripts, and we went to film school, and because I think just people were like, I think they were just trying to figure out what magic we had done, and they were just like, I think they were just intimidated by the fact that we had done it for so cheap, and it worked so well, you know what I mean?
The studios wanted to figure that out. Wait, how did you?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, our last audience question.
Hi, so I don't know if this is just a rumor or not, but like that there was actually somebody dressed as the witch in the one scene when they were running away. Is that true? And it was supposed to be caught.
We dressed a guy in like this white outfit, like with like white pantyhose and like, white socks, and it was cold that night. He fell in the river on the way there. It was terrible. Yeah, he fell in the river. I felt so bad for him. And we didn't have any money for him. He was just like, yeah, I'll do it. So we had him run next to them, like parallel to them. And we wanted like Heather's camera to kind of go and get. And then that's one of the only scenes we reshot a couple of times. So, because what we wanted to do was when she was like, "What the hell is that?" She would turn the camera, and for a few frames we would get like this ghostly, the light, bouncing off the guy, and this weird figure running next to them, just to creep people out. Yeah, more like a white mummy, but we wanted it to be, he's running, so we wanted it to be more like a ghostly, weird. Is that a human figure? It could be anything, but it never came out. It never exposed properly. We did like 3 or 4 runs at different, distances to try to get him exposed, and then we got the film back a few weeks later. We're like, dude, man, we didn't get anything, and it was just, honestly, for me, it's like, it's more chilling just to hear their reaction and her saying, "What the fuck is that?" And then Josh's reaction and all the when they're hiding, "Oh, there's no baby," like that. That's just, it's freaky, And so I think that not showing it is a good kind of, it was a mistake that ended up helping the film.
There are so many more questions that I want to ask about post Blair Witch Life, about the making of the film. I'm getting, the stage manager keeps waving off because we have Alice Cooper in here next at 2 p.m. For the Q&A. So unfortunately, we are all out of time for questions right now. However, cast and Eduardo Sanchez, they are going to be in the celebrity room.
Thank you, guys. We'll be back at the table. Hold on, one second. This is important. There is a fan family here, and I just want to say that the connection between us and you is so special and humbling. This young man, Donnie, died in 2000, and Mom came up with the missing T-shirt, and I didn't obviously know this beforehand, and his sister is there too, and she said that it was his absolute favorite movie, and she's held on to the T-shirt since he passed in 2000, and we signed it today. And I just want to just think of them today and send them love and be kind to each other, because that's bigger than all this stuff. So God rest his soul. Thank you.